I call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, January 26, 2026 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have the roll.
Elke.
Present.
Weiss.
Present.
1 sec, I got my speaker over here. Lytle. Here. Tucker Long.
Here.
Keller.
Here.
Swanson.
Here.
Opes.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
All present, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. We have a quorum, so we can proceed with the agenda. We will move on to item 4, which is public comment. If any members of the public wish to speak, now would be the time to do so. Oh, and just to note, we have a new timer, which hopefully you can see. Yes. Okay.
Can't miss it, Mr. Mayor.
I thought it was 3 minutes, so I rehearsed, and
Okay.
be happy to report I'm going to blow it away. It's going to be under 5, but I will check. Good evening, everybody. Connor Kearney here with Forward Development Group, speaking on behalf of Sugar Creek Commons LLC. As you know, the Sugar Creek Commons project has history spanning nearly a decade. My focus here is not to belabor that history, but to touch on the key pieces and attempt to convey the importance of the merits of the TIF agreement from our perspective. As many know, the Sugar Creek Commons redevelopment encompasses previously blighted properties which required environmental remediation and public improvements to move forward. That work was made possible through the use of tax increment financing, which was approved by the City Council after making finding that, but for the use of TIF, the redevelopment of this blighted area would not otherwise occur. Sugar Creek Commons worked with the bank to finance those environmental remediation and public improvements, with the bank's repayment source coming from future TIF payments through new tax revenue generation. We believe the use of tax increment financing was successful at Sugar Creek Commons. Environmental contamination was resolved through a thorough remediation process moderated by state agencies. Abandoned key structures on key downtown properties were cleaned up, and improvements to offsite right-of-way infrastructure within West Verona Avenue and Legion Street were completed. These improvements were inspected, accepted, and then subsequently dedicated to the city. These activities, combined with the addition of new housing opportunities within the community, which spurred further redevelopment throughout the entire West Verona Avenue corridor, represent a textbook example of how tax increment financing can and should be used. Now, we understand that the overall development plans for Sugar Creek Commons have evolved since 2017, and that the original TIF agreement is no longer consistent with the full build-out of the overall development, namely due to the lack of the hotel project. But we believe the absence of a hotel should not invalidate all the other positive aspects of the original public-private partnership that has been successfully completed. Sugar Creek Commons and its affiliates made best efforts to move the hotel project forward. Prior to the shift in market conditions, a great deal of time, effort, energy, and financial resources were spent completing the full architectural plans, obtaining entitlements from the city, and procuring hotel flag approvals with an executed franchise agreement. Sugar Creek Commons then went on to sell the improved land to a third-party hotel development group who ultimately was unable to proceed due to macroeconomic factors, all of this being outside of the control of Sugar Creek Commons. This is not a legal argument. It is clear that a hotel has not been constructed. We are not asking for a decision, determination, or specific motion this evening. We are asking for the collaborative opportunity to work with staff regarding a fair and equitable resolution that is mutually beneficial. A resolution that recognizes a portion of the original agreement was unable to be fulfilled, but also recognizes the positive impact that the original TIF agreement has had on this community. We believe that a mutually beneficial resolution can be reached through a reduction in TIF proceeds, but not a complete elimination and invalidation of the good that this project has brought the community. We appreciate your time, review, and consideration. Thank you very much.
We are still in public comment, so if anyone else wishes to speak, Now would be the time to do so.
Hello, Dale Betsky, 6422 Shady Bend Road, Town of Verona. I don't know if your Public Works citing top 3 includes the Shady Bend property or not, but I just, while you're getting ready to consider that issue tonight, I wanted to remind the council of the letter that that a number of the residents of Shady Bend sent back in September. We still have the same concerns: traffic and safety, noise, quality of life, visual, environmental degradation, water and air quality concerns, property devaluation, incompatible with the long-term plan, and transition area and road deterioration. And so we continue to hope that the Shady Bend site is not selected, and that if and when that property is annexed to the city, it would be developed in a way that would be compatible with the rest of the neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so.
Good evening, council members. It's really good to see you. I know it's been a while. I missed you. You may not have missed me, but I'm happy to be here. As I mentioned the last time I was here, it was in early December, and there was national news that the apartment rental rates in the country were decreasing and vacancy rates were increasing all over the country. The same held true for Dane County, and those trends are continuing and accelerating. The statistics in Dane County as of the end of December were as follows. Year-over-year rent growth decreased 1.3%. That's 3 months straight of decreasing rents. Median rent for Dane County apartments is the lowest it's been since March of 2024. And most importantly, the vacancy index continues to rise. Dane County's December vacancy rate jumped to 7.6%. This is particularly significant because, as you can see from this chart, multifamily vacancy rates have consistently increased in the summer and decreased at the end of each calendar year. It's been very consistent until now. In 2025, instead of going down at the end of the calendar year, the vacancy rate actually shot up. The vacancy rate is now far higher than it's ever been since this source has been collecting data. And in fact, 7.6% is approaching an unhealthy vacancy rate. A healthy vacancy rate is typically thought of as being between 5 and 8%. As I mentioned last month, I encourage you to take a drive to downtown Madison to see all the cranes where hundreds and perhaps thousands more apartments are underway and will become available in the coming months and years. Supply is continuing to increase rapidly and won't stop anytime soon. Developers are looking at the prospect of building multifamily as being soft and are shying away. Just last month, Apartments.com showed the new Apex development with 13 available units. That was last month. I looked at it again over the weekend and it showed 22 units available. That's consistent with the county's vacancy rate increasing at the end of the year when it would traditionally drop. Why is this important? It's important because this eliminates any justification for wasting land better suited for single-family homes like the Bacchus property to build more apartments that we don't need. As you know, Verona has already approved Apex Phase 2, the Argus apartment project, the 500 apartments at Avalon Ridge, and the city of Verona is now promoting the construction of probably another 500 units in connection with the RFP. There's also a 125-unit multifamily project nearing completion at the intersection of McKee Road and Maple Grove Drive. Approving even more apartments on the Bacchus property
would arguably be irresponsible given the current outlook. If fiduciary decides to move forward with the Bacchus property project, I think it would be a no-brainer for the city to at least pump the brakes on that until at least other projects in the hopper get built and have a fighting chance to succeed. It'd be a shame to waste the Bacchus property on yet another large multifamily project that we don't need and the community doesn't want. It seems pretty obvious to me that if there's a housing crisis, it's in the availability of homes that people can actually buy. Building more apartments is not going to solve that, and building apartments on land better suited for single-family homes would make the problem even worse. If there's a crisis, it's with the single-family home availability, not, as you can see, multifamily. Please focus and work hard on the real problem, incentivizing developers to build the type of homes that people can buy on land that it's best suited for. Those of us around the Bacchus property justifiably relied on the city, honoring the comprehensive plan that calls for that type of project. We ask that you do the right thing by honoring that plan and encouraging developers to provide what the city truly needs, which is affordable single-family homes. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. We are still in public comment, so if anyone else wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. Seeing no one approaching the microphone, we will move on to item 5, which is approve the minutes from the January 12th, 2026 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, corrections, or motions to approve? Alder Hunke.
Yeah, I think I made the motion to approve the bills, and it says Alder Hoxt made the motion to approve the bills.
Noted, we'll get it corrected, Alder.
Okay. Any other corrections on the minutes? Alder Tucker Long.
Under Tourism Commission, Section E, Item 2, Paragraph 2, my name is spelled wrong. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other corrections? Alder Tucker Long.
I move to approve the minutes with the 2 corrections noted.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. Last chance for corrections. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected from the January 12th, 2026 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. First up and first and only, we have 6A, which is the mayor's monarch pledge, which is available in your packet. I am looking for a motion to approve this so we can progress with this project with the World Wildlife Federation. Alder Tucker Long.
I love this program, so I will happily make a motion that we approve the Mayor's Monarch Pledge.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Keller. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Thank you. That concludes mayor's business. And with that, we'll move on to item 7, which is announcements. Any announcements from the council? Alder Tucker Long.
Staff anniversary cards are going around. If you haven't signed them, see me before you leave. And secondly, I just want to say a big thank you to whomever sent us the anonymous Happy Hearts Day card to the city council. That was adorable. The stickers are amazing. It made me so happy, so thank you very much.
Any other announcements? All right, with that, we'll move on to item 8, which is the administrator's report. Mr. Aulick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a little timely given the cold and everything else. Our snow plow professionals are doing, I think, an amazing job this winter. Each snowstorm is its own animal. A lot of them are on weekends. Some of them are 24 hours long. You know, there's all different ways that snow arrives, and you seemingly never win on snow, but I think we're doing a pretty good bang-up job this year with snow removal, and our DPW employees are doing a great job. On the elections front, from Clerk Licht, in-person absentee voting for the February 17th spring primary begins February 3rd and runs through February 13th at City Hall during normal business hours. So just a reminder, get out and vote. We have a Dane County judgeship on the ballot, so something to vote for. And just lastly, the 2025 building inspection report came through my email. And in 2025, building inspection had total 77 separate code enforcement cases. And on the building permits front, they had 967 total permits issued, which meant 3,500 approximately separate inspections. The total construction value in 2025 is $540,485,000. So they are busy, busy people over there. And if you're listening to this and you just happen to be a well-credentialed building inspector, we're looking for you. Please do apply. And they're very hard to come by, but we need another one, so we're hiring. And that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Alec? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 9, which is engineers report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. For the Legion Street reconstruction projects, traffic signals are operational and punch list work is underway. And with that, with our minus 20-degree weather, we haven't had much other updates. I can take any questions.
Any questions on the engineers report? Seeing no questions, with that, we'll move on to item 10, which is committee reports. First up, we have 10A Finance Committee. Alder Humke.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $1,075,136.42.
Motion by Alder Humke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Weiss. Alder Humke.
Yeah, we have 3 large payments. The first is for $236,687. It's for cities and villages mutual insurance. It's for the 2026 premium liability for workers' compensation and auto. The premium for liability, workers' compensation, and auto insurance. There's also payment for $178,547 to James Peterson Sons, Inc. For Mark Drive reconstruction pay request. And the third payment is for $120,674 to South Central Library System for the 2026 membership fee.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Finance?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. With that, we move on to 10B, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Alder Tucker Long.
Yeah, I think it would be best if we begin with the presentation from Barrientos. They'll be making a presentation about several potential sites for a new public works facility, and we are going to be reviewing the site selection matrix that's used to evaluate them.
Great.
We also brought a USB-C to HDMI cord. Oh, he's got his own.
Oh, you do have one. Okay. Thank you. Norman Barrientos, architect and principal. And I am connected here. Okay. I am going to talk today about our task 2 on the site selection process that we've undertaken so far. And I'm going to jump to where we are, task 1, and you can see my screen, right? Or not? I wonder why. I can see it on here.
Your home screen?
Yeah, I must have not given it full permission. Wondering if I can see.
Switching.
Let me try this one instead. Connected to external display. Okay, and there's a desktop. Do you see that? And, why can I see it and you can't? Wondering if
Can you drag it? Is it treating it as a second monitor?
I can see this. I think I might have a Dex view of Smart View. Oh, mirror screen? No. I got to get rid of something here. Dex view. Where's the Dex view? New mode, Smart View, Dex. Oh, there it is. Okay. There we go.
Hey, okay.
My brain doesn't work as fast when I'm under pressure. Like, okay, got it. All right, sorry about that.
Half are working, half aren't.
I am? Not in the clear yet. That is kind of funny looking.
Yeah, it's this way.
All right.
Jamie's and everyone this way doesn't have it. Yeah, just everyone just kind of come and gather around.
Okay, I see it.
You guys can come up here.
Yeah, there we got. I mean, we got monitors. You can
See some of them.
Crowd. No, that's like a new one.
Otherwise, Mayor, what I'd suggest is those who can't see it, just have a seat.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll have to do.
Let me
Oh,
try.
well,
Sometimes the
oh, he's switching.
adapters
Okay.
can
I
make
was
a
about to say, I'm like,
difference
well, now I
too.
know what it is.
Oh,
Oh, all right,
you know.
never mind.
I figured that one out a while ago.
Oh, we're good.
Well,
Are you blacked out again?
let's see.
All right, we're still good, so,
Okay.
all right. Technical issues in progress, but I guess let's proceed.
Okay, so I'll kind of speak to around here. So we're on task 2, although back in task 1, that was November, late November, we met and we went through the facility needs of what we estimated the garage needed. And now we're moving into task 2, site selection. And we looked at 5 sites, and some of these are not for sale. We applied a weighted criteria, or we developed a weighted criteria, which we're going to have your input on how to weight it. And we developed site test diagrams for you to look at how these can fit spatially. And then we have this matrix we developed for you, we'd like your input on. And then with that, we'll come back with an updated. And I will say that my company's been involved in about 20 site relocation efforts with cities and counties. And I've developed this process over the years as a way to rationalize how we move to the next step. And there's about 20 variables that go into relocating a garage location. And obviously, this is specific to a DPW type garage, so you'll see that come up. Just know that I've applied this to other garages for other municipalities, and over time decided, pick the ones I feel really help us make a decision and help you make a decision too. So the sites are, let me go into, can you see that? Yeah. So we have 5 sites that we looked at. The first one is on Shady Bend, 40 acres. Second one is Valley Road North, 27 acres. And then we've got Pine Row, Valley Road South, 26 acres. Pine Row, 27 acres. Wayland Road at 31 acres, and Business Park at 40 acres. So you can see them on the diagram there. So the first one is Shady Bend, and you are looking at it heading toward the south. And at the bottom right is the north end of that. So that's 40 acres, partially farmland, partially farm developed area. And that site, it's 40 acres, and it has a topography that can be worked at. It's a little irregular, but it can be leveled out as needed for a 12-acre garage site. Actually, this could go up to 18 acres if we have area for growth. And it does have a drop of 24 feet across the 40 acres, but we feel within the 12 acres that we need that we could level this out. Utilities will need to be extended for electrical infrastructure on this. And then this is our test fit diagram that you're going to see, a very similar floor plan layout. This is a test fit diagram. It's not intended to be a final. It gives us a sense that we can get the main garage, the parking, the truck circulation, the salt shed, the fuel stations, and their cold storage. And then we have a public yard waste drop-off, and then we'll need a retention pond too in that. And it's there's many other aspects to all of these site diagrams that will need to be worked out, such as do we need traffic control, such as medians or DXL lanes. We haven't worked out a stormwater plan on this. We haven't worked out any landscaping, buffers, and nor have we integrated any future roadway plans that the city might have to come and go around here. But it does indicate to us that this site has sufficient land and that we could find an area on it to develop. And in this case, this would take up about half of the 40 acres. Likely there would be some access roads. And I will say that what you're seeing in these plans is there is a main garage, and the green is the parking for the heavy, medium, and equipment pieces. There's a truck wash, and we want the trucks to come in and on their own drive and then come around and either go through the truck wash and then drop off items that they have in cold storage, such as they might have a trailer with mowers and a generator in the back. And then maybe they might unload salt at the salt shed and then go into their parking for the night, and which would be really great for a night like tonight. And then on the other side in the purple is the repair garage, and those are the repair bays. They're isolated from the parking. Currently yours are mixed in together with the parking. And we've got a line of behind that, below that, a repair garage, part storage, the water utility, building maintenance, and then the admin office and the crew area. And so this arrangement, and one thing about garages is they have a lot of overhead doors, and we want a lot of cross traffic coming. We want the trucks to drive in and maybe drive through the building. And like such as in the repair garage, they might pull a truck from the repair garage into parking when they're done with it. Or we want parts to be able to move in a cart or a scissor forklift, I should say, around the shop floor too. So we need this multi-access point, and preferably we have it on at least 3 of the sides of the garage. And then outside the garage, you'll need an access there for the trucks to come in, especially the ones that have plows and sanders and wings to come in, turn, and then move into the overhead door without dinging a frame on it. So a lot of those clearances are very specific that we need to move the trucks in. We're also thinking about expansion in the future for either more parking or more repair bays too. So that's kind of, they're all the same in a way. We didn't spend a lot of time working out different layouts, but we're testing that it can fit here and that we can access the road. All right, and then, okay, so, and this is Valley Road North, and this is on the southwest side of the city. It's actually would need to be annexed. There is, from discussions with Public Works, the plans to put a water tower. I understand SSM is putting a clinic toward what is toward the right here and toward the east of this site, toward the interchange. This site would require that we bring in utilities to it. Here's some of the aerial views along with topography. It is a very flat site as far as the Public Works garage utility goes, and it's not listed for sale right now. And it is a low point in the surrounding area, meaning there is a lot of water that comes on here, and the soil type does indicate that it's a very poor drainage soil, and it has very low bearing capacity. So from a top-level engineering analysis, this would need to be either cleared off about 4 feet and refilled, at least wherever we put the garage, you know, about 12 acres of development. So you know, right there, that's, well, that can be done, but it's an extensive effort to fill up with engineering fill on this building, or yard. And the test fit, again, we pretty much use a similar design on most of these. We flipped it around. This has multiple access points, which is great to have a drive for the trucks, one for the public, and then one for either exiting or for the public or the employees and vendors to come in another route. So having the multiple entrances is great on this. So this works, doesn't need the whole site on it. I think the main thing on this one is the poor drainage of the soil requiring engineered fill. And then Valley Road South, just to the south of that, is this site. It has more topography to it. There is a drainage area here that likely you can't build on that. And this is just to the east and to the south. And this site, you can see, and for reference, the SSM clinic is to the north, kitty corner to the northwest of this. It's not listed for sale. There is a bit of a ridge that need to be either filled in. There's about 20 feet of drop on this, and we'd have to extend the infrastructure from SSM site, which is not that far, probably at most another 500 feet down on that. One issue that came up is we understand from the DOT that this State Highway 69 might need to have a bypass on that interchange because SSM's is only allowable owner use to load up onto this road for backup and for turning to the north. And any more development will require putting in another road to come to the south of that so that there's a longer queue area till you get to that interchange. So if the city developed in either of these two sites, a bypass road would be needed that would go to the south of the interchange, well, the intersection. And here's our test fit. It works. It fits on there. It's just there's a bit of topography down to the east on that. We can get the public yard waste drop off on that. And then Pine Row is next to that. Actually, I'm going to go back up to orient everybody on where these are, just since we've done 1, 2, 3, now we're on 4. And I'm going to, from after 4, I'm going to jump over back to the east side. So on 4, Pine Row, there we go. So this one's right up against 69, and it's got a drainage path right down the middle of it right now. And it's 27 acres. It is for sale, and it would require annexation. There's a lot of topography changing here, 60 feet of it, right down the middle. And it is an L-shaped site, so we'd have to bifurcate the development. And we still will need to extend the electrical infrastructure down to this site. And we'd have to do upgrades to the entryways to get them in here. And by that, you can see we'd have this split site with the main garage being to the north and then the public waste yard to the south. So a very circuitous, long access road to the back. But this site doesn't really offer a lot of room for even flat development for the garage. So you can see we're like, it's not an ideal site for development wise. So back to the east side in Wayland Road, and this site here is just north of the Shady Bend site, and it's 31 acres. It's farmland, undeveloped. It's off the market, but the owner has expressed interest in selling. It does slope 60 feet from east to west. We would need to extend the utilities. They would come from the west here, and we would need improvements on the road, Wayland Road. And I understand that Wayland Road at some point is looked at being a main connector between here and Fitchburg. So here's a test fit for that, and you can see it's a plenty big site. We could fit the main facility toward the north, get the public waste drop-off in the back, and then get the retention back there too. So this site works. We don't have to go all the way back if we don't need to. And then the business park to the south of that, we're now on the east side of the city, and that is undeveloped. It's not for sale, but within a growing industrial area. More than half of this site is within an environmental corridor and a pond buffer area as well. It does slope 70 feet across the site with numerous drumlins, so there's a bit of grade complexity here. And the utilities would need to be extended, and what it could be easily achievable from the west. And we'd need to extend the Kettle Moraine Trail and Arrowhead Way to work with this site. And here's our test fit. We'd have to push a little bit into the environmental corridor to get this developed. So, probably about almost half of this site is developable for the garage. Okay, I'm going to move to the criteria. The next part of this is, and with your involvement, is getting the council to give us their weighting opinion. And we have these 17 criteria. The ones in gray are ones that are very logistical, engineering driven, like, okay, it does or it doesn't, or numbers indicate this or that. But the ones in the teal green are a little more subjective and a matter of city policy, strategy, community will. So our intent here is to have you input with us on the criteria. I'm going to kind of jump ahead on what the criteria sheet's going to look like. Ooh, where did I miss it? I think actually I do not have my criteria sheet in here. I'm going to pull that up in a minute here. What I want to talk to you is what weight these green, or the light green criteria have for you. And our criteria go from 1.5 to 1. And then once we have that from you, we're going to put that into our spreadsheet, and then you can help us define the numbers for this. Now, if it helps, I'm going to pull up that spreadsheet in a minute, but I do have some little explanations of what these all mean for you. Compatibility with adjacent uses, and I'm going to refer to a few experiences of mine with other garages and municipalities on this as well. And this is how it fits with other uses. And I'll tell you things that I've seen where garages have had a lot of negative resistance and where like people are like, fine, that's great. And obviously your community is your community. So, but as a consultant, what I've seen in this is some people don't want the garage next to them. It's because either it's a school or a church, or there's a lot of housing. Maybe, but if they're a business or a car dealership, or we're selling, vehicle parts, or there's other governmental facilities nearby, fine. Again, it's your call, but it's it's a very much one that brings out community reaction on this. Do we want this in our area? And that's your call on that. The major roadways, there's both a logistical part about how far the DPW should be from a major access point so they can get on the road and get to their service routes. But some of this may be, well, if they have to drive an extra mile, that's our call too. So, ideally, a DPW garage would be right at dead center of your city, which wouldn't be, a great thing to put right in the heart of the city, but, you want to move their trucks around. You're a relatively small city, So, okay, they drive an extra 2 minutes to get from one end of the city to their service route versus to their right in the center. I don't think that's a big problem with your size community as I have with when I've worked with other ones. But that's your call. Like, no, we want to be really close, or yeah, a few more minutes to service route is fine. Reasonable site development costs. This is, are you willing to pay some level of premium to develop the site? And what you're going to find when we look at these sites, the building costs are going to be all the same because we really haven't changed the building design. I will even I get into the next phase. There might be variations, but we're only going to be talking like a couple thousand here out of 60, 50,000 square feet. So the building costs are all about the same at this level. It's the site costs of the infrastructure, the roadway improvements, the grading, the drainage, and maybe even some permitting issues that might delay this. So that I found, do you want to pay the premium for some additional engineering or utilities or permits? And because, well, some communities I have, like, they have very few choices. You actually are in a good situation. You have actually some good options. Some of my communities have very few choices, and it's like, well, it's the only site, and we're going to pay more, but it's the best and only site we can really develop on. So yeah, that, again, that's going to be your call on that. The possibility of actually purchasing this and the cost to purchase, again, that's your call. We're not doing any real estate evaluation.
Get both sides to work.
Oh, okay, you got it?
Just plug it in and
Yeah.
left and right arrow.
Thank you.
See if this will.
Oh, there's this one. Oh, you got it over here? Thank you, sir. Yeah. Upside down. It came there.
Are those working? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Good to go.
Okay. Thanks, you. Yeah. Did I?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. This is not a touch screen. All right. Site development costs, acquisition. This one is very much unknown until you actually approach the owners. And maybe you don't even want me to say much at this point, but that's, okay, I think I'll say enough on that. That one's kind of obvious. And infrastructure improvement costs, some of this obviously can be engineering driven, but how much you are willing to pay to annex and extend, maybe it's an economic development investment, like, well, we're going to develop the rest of the street anyway, so we're going to be the ones to foot the bill. So I will say this one too comes along with, sometimes I've seen cities like, well, we want to develop that corridor, and we're going to be the first ones out there, and we want to do a quality building too, and so we have a, kind of an economic development rationale why we want to go there. And then adequate area for expansion. That some communities want enough room for, well, we want enough room for 40, 50 years. We don't want to have to do this again for a long time. And others like, well, if we can get, them, we get 10 years, we're good. And then 20 years from now, they'll have to deal with it, or they may have to bifurcate up and split around. So it looks like at this point you have actually options to have a long-term site growth-wise. Traffic and road impact, that's a long-term impact that the actual garage will generate some traffic. It's not a lot, but it is larger trucks, and there are some vendors that will come and go during the day, and the employees. It's more the other developments around it that'll impact the garage, and also having the larger trucks in front of them before the truck turns off into a lane. Sustainability and resilience. That is the city's call on how far you want to push sustainability, and whether you want to go alternative or non-ICE, I shouldn't use that word, non-internal combustion engine engines. That is a call on your end, too.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we were to do geothermal regarding sustainability, we could do that on any site, right? Or is it site conditional?
It is somewhat site conditional, yeah, but you can. And, if you want to put like a solar panel array up, sure, it may take an acre or two, but we should put some land down for that. If we're going to do electric, that's a different type of station to charge, and you don't want to put it near the fuel station. Usually it's somewhere else. I work in California and Florida, and we use a lot of canopies parked over the fuel stations with solar panels, or even the parking areas to gather photovoltaics.
Okay. Alder Lytle.
I don't want to jump ahead of everyone else, but while we're on this particular topic, I guess I didn't see any obvious differences of the site locations that are on this list of 6 in terms of opportunities for sustainability and resilience, other than travel times, sending public further from the center of Verona, and I know none of them are near the center of Verona, but I guess I have a hard time seeing how this particular factor would change much between the 6 sites you have outlined.
In terms of site selection, you're right. It's a weak one. It's only in areas for like geothermal or solar panel array. Some clients want to put they specifically, we want a bioswale. We want to have a lot of landscaping involved in it. So right now at this point, you're right. It's pretty minimal. I think in the next stage, as you move ahead, this will become a stronger issue, or could be. It's up to your choice on that.
So I guess that leads me to have a follow-up question. Like when we talk about building design later on, I mean, would that be the time to get more into sustainability stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Even at the end of concept design, it'll be just a small amount, but like if you tell me, yes, we'd like to explore sustainable energies and alternative sources, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I have one logistical thing. The matrix did not get into this slide, but I have it on its own on my computer.
Go for it.
Switch, let's
Let's
see
see.
if it breaks for half of us.
Let's try that. Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
it show up?
we're good.
Okay, great. I'm wondering,
That is that's gotta be on our end. Shouldn't it? No?
I don't think it is. I don't think he has the horsepower to.
Oh, is it like projecting to too many monitors and,
oh, is that what it is, you think?
I guess, I mean,
Huh, that's true, you have multiple monitors.
I'll put it up.
Okay, here, let's do that, thank you.
You went to the Zoom link, Carla? You got it? Do that too. Zoom on his computer.
Do you have an email?
Alder Weiss?
Is our goal here to do an ordinal ranking of most important to least important, or is it to actually assign a score of like, I want this to be a 15 out of 15, I want this to be a 1 out of 15?
To give me a weighting on the criteria, and then we can rank them, if you like.
Because done similar kind of exercises like this, it turns out that something's important to everybody, and I think it's important to, if we're going to have rankings that are meaningful, I think that something has to get pushed down to the bottom. And I don't know if you have thoughts about ways that we could, if that's important, do you think, or if that's
Let me
there's a
send this to you. Yes,
clever
I can make a
rubric for
comment
us to do
about
that.
that. And I'm going to email this to you, my Outlook. And if you want to type your email. Thanks. Okay. So what I find, it is a bit relative based on the site. You get your finalist 3 sites, like, okay, amongst these 3 sites, which someone's going to have the least environmental impact, the best community support, the least amount of infrastructure cost, and work for us in the long run as a public works facility. So it is a little relative, and it does shift and when you compare against other sites. But right now, we're going to have you look at the ratings, and then we'll rank them. Okay, thanks. Get that. Okay, do you guys? That one's not showing up. That one is.
Yeah, I don't see, oh. We're still dealing with some technical issues. I mean, the simplest solution would be to have alders go back into the audience if they don't have access to the Zoom
I
link.
recall, based on the flash I saw, it looks like what I think your colleague presented to us last time. So I know sort of how the matrix is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I've got that picture of that.
okay, I've got it up here on my end. It's up here.
It's up down here, if you want to come back down.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So the first one is that we want your input is on traffic and road impact, and then it's going to be compatibility and adjacent uses. And then it's all the ones in the red. Can you see those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least half of us can.
Okay. And typically the way I do this is, one is, it's modestly important, and then 1.5 is very important. And then we'll go in and put a weighting on that. So we have a criteria factor that we're going to weight. So traffic road impact, compatibility with adjacent uses, and then reasonable site development costs, adequate area for expansion, sustainability and resilience, acquisition possibility and cost to purchase, infrastructure improvement cost, and urban quality impact, and then zoning and comprehensive plan. I don't think we actually had that on our spreadsheet, their earlier diagrams.
On the, which of these criteria is the one that would capture public safety from the perspective? Is it the traffic and road?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Can people see criteria 12?
Yes.
So we're going to give it a 1 to 1.5
Okay.
as a weighting for criteria.
Alder Swanson?
So I guess instead of doing these one at a time, I'd like to sort of talk through them in the aggregate first, because that makes sense to me. At sort of initial glance, before hearing what anyone else has to say, I'm sort of picturing numbers 9 and 15 is about the same. How much does it cost to develop the site, and how much does it cost to improve the site I put those at, like, to me, those seem like they fall in sort of the same place, right? Like, how much is it going to cost to make the site usable? Those both seem like reflections of that, and I think that they should go in about the same place. 6 and 16 also seem similar in sort of their concept. So this is the compatibility with adjacent uses and the urban quality impact. So this is, like, to me, those are both how much are the neighbors going to complain, right? So I think that we should put those probably about the same place as well. 5 and 17 seem similar to those, maybe 5 just above because it has the added public safety aspect, and then 17 just below because the plan is a suggestion and we can work with it, and many of these sites seem like we'd have to annex anyway. But all 4 of those seem about the same place. Number 13, the actual cost to purchase the site. I mean, that's got to be important, probably pretty close to the other, like all 3 of those that are about the actual cost should all probably go in the same place in my mind. Number 11, I think, like we're doing this project because we didn't have adequate area to expand with last time. So we should prioritize that relatively highly. A lot of these sites look like that's not much of an issue, so I don't know how much that should be like really high as opposed to more like a tiebreaker level. But that's my initial thought. And then number 12, as some of you have already brought up, it doesn't seem like there's much flexibility there between the different sites. So worth considering, but probably not a deal breaker because I don't see much opportunity to really have differences for most of these. And then so of those, I guess my initial ranking would be 9 and 15 and 13 as sort of the top. So those are the how much does it actually cost. Number 11, then after that, which is it? Sorry, so these are the criteria numbers. I think that these are the actual numbers top to bottom on the, is it different on the matrix? Okay, I'm sorry. I was using the criteria ranking from the slideshow he gave us. So 9 and 15 are the site development costs and the infrastructure improvement costs. 13 is the acquisition possibility and cost of purchase. 11 is the adequate area for expansion.
Yeah.
So this is sort of my order top to bottom. And then so 5,
Sorry,
6,
I'm gonna
6, and 17.
Interrupt you real quick. What's the best way for us to do this? Because I feel like I'm in partial agreement with Alder Swanson and partially I would go in a different direction, and I feel like doing all this verbally might get really confusing really fast. Would it make more sense to hand around like a spreadsheet and have everyone send it to Jamie and then average it out, or?
That'd be great. I think so, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we can either, I don't mind hearing the opinions. It's good, I think, to get everybody on board.
Alder Lido, quick?
Since we have our city attorney in attendance, like how individually, how can we provide this input? And then like, are we talking about everyone opening the spreadsheet and scoring it tonight during the public session, or?
Well, if you recall, we kind of did something like this recently with the North Point development. We had, a lot of back and forth with the developer, and there were a lot of very important issues for alders that people kind of weighed differently. And so the way to handle it, where you could do it here, is essentially everybody would send their information or their position on the weight to each criteria to Jamie. You wouldn't send it to each other.
Please don't do that,
Yeah,
yes.
he would compile it in the same way that he compiled comments regarding the development agreement. And then the difference between the two was, since that was terms and conditions for a development agreement, we had those discussions in closed session. Whereas here, it would be ultimately, once all the information was gathered, then you would have an open session discussion. Obviously, you could then still discuss the weight to give to each criteria in open session, but you would have a little bit more time as an individual alder to kind of evaluate the PowerPoint presentation that's been provided, and then also the spreadsheet, and then, potentially at your next meeting, that's where sometime before your next meeting, you would provide that information directly to Jamie, not to anyone else, to the mayor's points, and then Jamie would have that available to share with everyone prior to the meeting, but then same document would be discussed at your next meeting.
I have a question. Would waiting 2 weeks slow down the site selection process significantly? Because I would like to keep it moving regardless of what we decide.
Not for us.
Okay.
And I think once we get that, we're going to move ahead with the concept design, the final test, but that'll take us about 2 weeks to
Okay.
generate those.
Okay.
So this is probably the most engaging part.
Alder Weiss and myself.
I think that's a good idea for us to do it like that. I'm 100% in agreement. I think that it would be useful for us to have some kind of rules of the road. And I think that rather than trying to give numerical scorings to each one of them, I think that if we try to just group them into most important and least important and medium important, and to say that if we just pick, say, 3 or that are the most important and 3 that are the least important, and then each submit that, because I think it'll be easier to collect the data. And as well, if we try to give it numerical scores, I think it might be hard to actually collect that together just statistically, because we're not going to like all have like well formatted, normalized data, you know? So I don't know if something like that would make sense for us to just agree to beforehand and, as a part of public session.
Does that work then? Would, like, his system of doing it, like on thresholds, like low, medium, high, or something like that, would that work for your system?
That'd be fine, because we could then either attribute it to, that's a 1, it's a low, and, it's moderate, 1.2, and to high, that's a 1.5. Yeah, then I could group it into 5
Okay.
points.
That's what I was
Yeah, yeah, that'd be very workable for us.
Okay, I got myself and then Alder Harrison. I guess then, since my understanding is then we'll be filling these out separately, since we're in open session now and talking about this item, I guess I'd like to make my pitch on like that. I think the costs are the most important ones, at least for me, because we have to deal with the budget and we have to deal with public money. And like, yes, we will pay, all of us individually will pay for this as taxpayers, but so will everyone else in the community. And I think we need to be really careful. I think that we're fiscally responsible. I do think that like any of these sites could work. I do think any of these sites could work. I maybe have some preferences in my head, but I think any of the sites could work. So for me, a lot of this will come down to things like cost. I do think some of the other criteria are obviously things we have to consider, like stormwater, but like not to put a burden on Ms. Fisher, but like that's just something for engineers to work out. And so like I guess I would rate that as, not to gloss over it, I know it's hard, but like just like you just figure that out. And then I guess certain other things like public safety, which is obviously really critical and really important. I also think a lot of that comes down to design and like of the building itself and the circulation and the street itself. So to me, those are like a little difficult for me to rank because obviously it's one of the most important things. On the other hand, I feel like that's a problem that could be solved primarily by design. Whereas in things like cost can't be solved by design. Like if the owner wants a ton of money, then they want a ton of money and there's not a ton we can do about it. So I guess that's my pitch to the group is please consider the financials. Alder Harrison.
Actually, as I've been thinking about my comment, I don't think I want to make it.
Alder Humke.
Okay, I'm going to second that commentary, just because thinking about all the other pieces of information I have in my head about what's coming down the pipe with other projects and things like that, like we just have to be we have done a phenomenal job. I'd like to stick to that phenomenal job that we've been doing with our taxes and keeping, and just people being moderately okay and us staying in the range of what's happening in our surrounding community. Compared to the surrounding municipalities, I feel like we're in a really good shape. So I'd like to stay in that good shape. I do want to ask a question though, just quickly, like for the parcels that are not for sale or haven't been indicated, there's one I know that's been like indicated they're interested potentially. How does that work if that ends up being the parcel that like is selected? Like how do you go fully down the road of that and then at the end we make, I'm curious about how we're going to pay for this and then.
What we've done and the way this scenario has worked out in other communities is you decide, we rank our 3 or 5. And what other communities have done is they've engaged then a realtor. And I know some are a little funny about that, but we don't want to get tied into a realtor and pay, we don't know about the commission yet. But some of them will do it as a fee, just flat out, yes, for whatever 1,000 we'll act and talk to those owners and feel out where they're at with their property. Sometimes it's, well, the grandkids own it and they're in Florida and I'm like, yeah, fine. We want to get it off our hands. And some have, other uses in mind or investments in mind. So I'm not a realtor, so I don't want to put myself out to do that. So I have typically recommended my clients do it. They've done that. They come back with a report and they give you like a valuation report. And they're like, well, we think it's worth this on the market based on other agricultural and commercial or industrial sites. And Then my clients have taken that and, well, now we have a market range for that parcel. And we can factor that in now. And they've either like, okay, as a board or council, we have these 3 parcels in mind. Now Realtor go approach one or all 3 and come back and give you an indication of where they're at and what they're willing to sell it for.
And then is that, once we purchase it, is that when you do the site design? Because I know that's part of this process too.
Okay, well, take it in the next step, actually, if you decide, like, okay, we really want this site X, and the realtors come back, say, yeah, this is probably the likely cost, and it looks like they're willing to negotiate, you go into a due diligence phase, and some of this is kind of legal, but as architects, engineers, what we've done is we'll do a schematic design on the building and the site, and the reason we'll do the site is because that's when we'll start doing, we'll get the survey, we'll do a preliminary geotech look at the soils, we'll do a preliminary grading plan, we'll do a stormwater plan, we'll check in with the DNR and see what that'll take, we'll look at utilities and get the city a cost. It's going to cost this much to extend the utilities, any roadway improvements, and basically give you a full cost and permitting schedule of what it'll take to take on this site. So that's what we typically call due diligence / schematic design.
Awesome, thank you so much.
I have Alder Tucker Long, then Alder Lytle.
For the rankings, when you say rank them from 1.5 to 1, how many digits do you want? Do you just want tenths or hundredths?
Yeah,
or?
just 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Alder Lytle.
So I guess I'm following the process that you're describing pretty well for most of these criteria. The 2 around cost, what I would like to understand a little better is, so given the input of you all and our city engineer, I understand how we could qualitatively rank site development costs for certain sites versus others. I'm unsure how we would have much, if any, data to go on around, how you would have much, if any, data to go on around acquisition possibility and cost to purchase at this stage of the site selection. So is that sitting there in reserve when we have more data? Or is there an approach you all can take to say, well, we think site 6 is going to be much more expensive to acquire than site 4, those kind of things? Like, maybe you can clarify that for me.
Yeah, I do access a realtor's website, kind of behind the scenes to look at what the rates are, or the purchase prices have been historically, and if it's for sale even, or if they have. So it's just my best guess based on what I've seen, but it's not a realtor's assessment at that point. Sometimes we get people start talking about, like we are today, and they're like, oh, I heard about this site, and we do pick up off the street some sense of what it's going to cost. So it is very just kind of hearsay or based on some past historical figures.
Other thoughts on this from the council? Alder Lytle.
Sorry, I am curious from if a number of these sites do seem to be surrounded by undeveloped parcels. So if the city is required to make an upfront investment to extend utilities to these locations, do we lose any ability to assess development fees for later developers to tie into those utilities in the way we would if they were actually the initial developer and we were putting those in solely to serve a private entity?
So if I remember the different properties, I think the majority of them, at least 4, maybe 5, were not in the city. And so we absolutely, as part of an annexation process, would be able to, essentially, it would be kind of a recapture. You know, we've certainly done agreements before. The one that comes to mind right now is Art and Glen. There's recapture language in there where they have done certain utility extensions that potentially will benefit other properties. And so if those other properties come into the city, we've agreed that we will seek recoupment. It's effectively the same concept here. So if we did extend some utilities, it would be part of our negotiations to try to recoup some of that money.
Other thoughts from the council? Okay, I guess then the next steps will be for people to fill out the spreadsheet and get it back to Jamie only, and Jamie will compile it, and we will discuss the whole thing in the next meeting.
And just to be clear, Mayor, the alders are sending me their 3 top priorities, 3 what they consider to be kind of the middle priorities, and then the 3 lowest priorities. Is that some
Is that
correct?
is that only 9 though? Is there more than 9 criteria?
There's a lot more than 9.
Okay, so but we're just limiting it to 9 then. Is
Yeah,
that,
the red
okay.
ones.
I want to make sure I'm clear on what you're sending me.
Okay. Is that clear to everyone else? No.
No.
Okay. Alder Swanson and Alder Harrison.
Yeah, so as I understand it, we're focusing on the 9 that are highlighted in green in the original presentation and that are in red on your matrix.
Yeah, on the red on the spreadsheet.
Okay, because the other ones are technical, and so they're just sort of, they are what they are. There's not much for us to subjectively apply policy-wise. Okay, got it.
Alder Harrison.
I was just gonna ask if we could have them spelled out for us, like what these 9 are, so that we like know what we're going home and doing. But it looks, I have the sheet of the green stuff. I don't see the red that were being presented. So I'm not sure how that lines up. Are they the same criteria?
I can see on the spreadsheet. Should we, for sake of clarity, should we just have Mr. Alex send around?
Yes,
Like
please.
fill this one out? Okay.
Yep.
Jamie will get the
Got it.
correct one. He will send it out. We will fill it out before the next meeting. Okay. Are we all, are we all good? Okay. All right. Unless anyone has anything else on this one, I guess, is there anything else for Public Works?
No, nothing further.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to item 11, which is new business. First up, we have 11A, which is a discussion of possible action regarding resolution number R-26-002. The resolution supporting dialogue with neighboring communities to evaluate collaborative options for EMS and fire services. Mr. Alec.
I can introduce it, Mr. Mayor.
And then Mr. Lytle, or Alder Lytle, if he would like as well.
This resolution affirms the City of Verona's appreciation for the professionals providing fire and EMS services to the city, while recognizing that changing conditions such as staffing, training, service demands, capital needs warrant periodic evaluation of service delivery models. The resolution further supports maintaining open dialogue and information sharing with neighboring communities to thoughtfully explore potential collaborative or regional fire and EMS options without presuming any specific outcome. The resolution authorizes the city administrator, fire and EMS leadership, and appropriate staff to participate in these exploratory discussions and to provide updates to the Common Council with any future changes to the service structure requiring separate council review and approval.
And then Alder Lytle.
Thank you. And I appreciate the mayor's willingness to consider this resolution. Fellow alders may be either puzzled or annoyed that this is back on our agenda approximately a month and a half after a similar resolution was on the agenda. Speaking for myself, I felt like I personally didn't have appropriate context around the resolution to be able to answer questions you all might have had at that time. And also, we didn't have representatives from the departments and/or commission most affected by this evaluation in attendance. So I wanted to make sure that at a minimum, we had the opportunity to ask those questions. So in justifying my strong desire that we move forward with a resolution of support, as the, I guess, newly reappointed elected official from Verona that serves on the Fitrona EMS Commission, while that relationship and that organization has seen its challenges through the years. I'm strongly proud of the great service that Fitch-Verona provides the citizens of Verona. I'm also wanted to clarify, and I hope this is captured in the language of the first paragraph of the resolution, that this is not any kind of criticism or concern over the high level of fire services provided by the Verona Fire Department. What I have learned in being approached by some of our partner communities with Fitch-Verona and some of the communities involved with this evaluation is that the impression the city of Verona left by not voting on that resolution back in December is that we don't have an interest in learning more about the benefits, aspects, criteria involved with evaluating a joint fire and EMS district with the city of Fitchburg and the village of Oregon as things stand now. Now, each community has our own set of benefits and downsides that would come from the formation of a joint fire and EMS district. And I don't presuppose that the city of Fitchburg's and the village of Oregon's are the same as the city of Verona's. But what I do think is that this is an incredibly important service that these folks provide, and any evaluation, any looking at alternatives is best informed by dialogue and being able to benefit from the evaluations that occur. So in the time since that resolution was not acted upon, I know our city administrator has participated in some of the meetings, not to state Mr. Alex's perspective, but mostly as an observer and not as a participant. Similarly, I think our acting fire chief has been less involved than they might have been to advocate for priorities that the city of Verona has, either in maintaining our existing or evaluating future options. So what I think is important is that the city and the elected officials state in a more formal way that there are benefits to knowing all the options that are available to us, that we support our staff in attending those meetings, advocating for things that are important to us, and then not making further commitments in terms of funding a study, in terms of, you know, any potential realignment of those services. So I'm happy to answer questions that you all have of me from the conversations I've had as the Fitch-Verona representative, but I'm also very glad that we have the acting chief and the chief of those two departments here to clarify what they see as pros and cons of this kind of arrangement.
Okay, we are on this item, so questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Swanson and Alder Humke.
So, I mean, so when this came up last time, my perspective was that I didn't have enough of an understanding of the history of the fire and EMS services here in Verona to really feel strongly one way or the other. So if the representatives of those departments have something they'd like to share today to give me some insight into what you guys think about any of this, would be, I guess I'd appreciate turning the mic over.
Okay, I guess Chief Anderson first, and then Chief McWright.
Sure. So thank you for inviting both of us here to kind of share that information. I know when I think this very first came up, probably back in September, October as well, I tried to share some information. It is I don't want to say it's a controversial. Well, it is a controversial topic, right? Very lots of emotion involved with this. I guess the message I would like to is pretty much a ditto right, of Alder, what Alder Lytle said, right? At this point, it is conversation, and it's been conversation for 8 or 9 months, and that the city of Verona has been in that conversation for 8 or 9 months. Just over the last, I would say, month and a half, it's moving. It's a snail's pace. That's where it's going to go. But at this point, the conversation is continuing to happen, and it is just talks, right? Nobody's signing on any piece of paper yet, but that conversation is now happening without the city of Verona, which I think it's a missed opportunity. I look at it as a myself sitting in a weird spot as, right, because that's what Fitch-Verona is, right? It's the city of Fitchburg, the city of Verona, the Verona Township. However, again, the ship is kind of moving now without the city of Verona. I have my own perspective on what good, bad, and indifferent, what a district could do. To me personally, again, I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. That is my perspective. I think the opportunity here is for you to get back into that conversation, and that's the only commitment at this time. And I think I think the city of Verona would benefit at least looking to see what that is, right? There is, again, no commitment at this time until that day comes that says, yes, we want to be part of this. Looking back at the last council meeting that was had that we were not, that I did not attend, I overwhelmingly heard I want more information, and I'd love to provide that information, even outside of the context of an open forum here. And I think, to me, this is that opportunity for you to get that information to help make that informed decision. Pass it over to.
Yeah, and then I guess we'll turn over to interim fire chief McCray.
Hi, I apologize. My recommendation is getting information both sides. I'm not very familiar with fire districts, so I as well, just starting in this conversation, I'm trying to learn more about the good and the bad, because, you can't make good decisions without knowing both sides or hearing both sides. So I don't have, unfortunately, a lot to give you at this moment, because I'm kind of in the same spot that the city administrator is as far as information gathering. I encourage getting the information, though, because either way, we have a decision to make and we have plans that we have to do for our future. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
As long as you're up here, I would go quick to Alder Helmke and then maybe open it up to questions for the chiefs.
Yeah, I'm curious what other, like, in terms of information gathering, like, just conceptually, what other fire EMS districts exist currently in the state that you are, like, looking, that are reference points for either one of you?
Everyone's so polite.
We can speak from Dane County alone. Oregon is a fire EMS district. DeForest Windsor is a fire and EMS district. Deer Grove, which is Deerfield Cottage Grove, is its own EMS district. Cambridge is a fire district and an EMS district. Wanakee is an EMS district. Mount Horeb is a fire and EMS district. So in Dane County alone, the vast majority of them currently are districts.
Collectively, together, as fire and EMS?
Yeah, I would say 50, it's a guess, but it's probably about a 50-50 split that is fire and EMS. There's still probably about a 50% that exist separately. And there are city-owned departments. It's a mishmash, but again, without looking at the numbers, about 50% of the fire and EMS districts or fire districts are, even in Dane County, are districts.
Okay, so there is, like, information from those existing districts that could be sought out, just.
I mean, personally, I would like to go further outside of Dane County, though, like Western Lakes, so you go towards the Waukesha County, because they have, again, just learning what this is all going to encompass, but to me, a district of more of what this would look like. Several communities getting together versus like Mount Horeb, or smaller townships working together, where Western Lakes has part of Delafield in there.
Yeah, what is proposed here is larger than what currently exists in Dane County.
That's helpful. Is it just currently, like, I had heard mention of other municipalities, is it currently just Oregon, Fitchburg, and Verona, potentially?
My understanding is McFarland is there as an observer and Stoughton is there as a potential participant.
So how would that, like, for me, just the larger this gets, the more uncertainty, the less I like it, the idea of it. So like, at what point is it like decided on who's the people? Like, is everybody sort of waiting to see who else is going to jump in? Is that, I'm just trying to get impressions of like what the situation.
I think that's more of a political question where it's the elected officials talking amongst themselves.
Oh, okay.
And I know people get frustrated with this, but like basically we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know when we're going to know. And I know that's a frustrating thing to hear, but I think that's where we're at. Where I think some of the principals, Fitchburg and Oregon, are pretty potentially ambitious, and they've always been quite clear about that. Where they're like, basically like this is the start. So if it was as originally laid out, Verona, Fitchburg, Oregon, the idea was this would be step one, and then it would expand and expand and expand because capital costs are driving a lot of financial issues. And if you're bigger, you can potentially afford more stuff. And so I feel like that's where it was at.
I think that's a good summary. It truly is not looking, and they've tried to express the conversations have been, they're not looking for 8 individuals. I mean, it gets thrown out there, let's just make this a county system. We're like, all right, that's out of control, right? It's a great idea, but it's out of control, right? My understanding is exactly what the mayor said, is that they're looking for at least this draft RFP, right, will be a core group of municipalities with the understanding that there's an option to, once it's successful or not, that can expand.
Can I just have like a conceptual question? So if for some reason fire and EMS were all tied up in, let's say this was like Stoughton and Oregon and Fitchburg, would an ambulance have to go from here to Stoughton, like potentially, or a fire truck from here to Stoughton? Like, is that in the realm of possibility? Let's say it's
Conceptually, yes. What it does is it just takes, if you think of the Fitch-Verona district, right, we have an ambulance in Verona, 1 and 2 up in Fitchburg. If this is a an Oregon, Verona, Fitchburg one, then yes, potentially an ambulance comes from Oregon to Verona.
Okay.
Operationally, the system doesn't really change. We do this already.
Sure.
It's truly organizationally that structure meshes a little bit more. We've had these conversations and we've had these conversations and again, a lot of information gathering of, depending on how long you want to sit here tonight, I know you don't, right? Every one of us has our own opinion what this looks like, right? I think there's a lot of potential for this. At least in very my EMS centric world, right? I sit there in our last chief's conversation, I'm like, think of all the things we can do. And then I get thrown well, what about this, this, and this? I'm like, I don't know, right? I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but I think to answer your questions, we do it already. Organizationally, it just changes.
Sure, okay. I mean, I think conceptually, like, I'm in favor of at least getting the information, so I appreciate you bringing this forward.
I guess as long as we have the chiefs up here, any questions for the chiefs? If not, we can just go back. And obviously, if you have questions later, you can ask them too. Okay, I guess other questions, comments, or motions on the resolution? Alder Weiss.
What would be the argument for not supporting the resolution and not participating? Is it just to like, we know we're not going to do it, and so we don't want to waste anybody's time being in the negotiations? Or it seems like the option value of participating is non-zero, and so unless it's just like the concern about it being a waste of time, or what's the argument for not participating, I guess?
I mean, this is not necessarily my thoughts on it, but I can think of a couple. Like you said, again, if we're just dead set against it, then we don't need to waste Mr. Olick's time or anyone else. You could look at it as a negotiation tactic where we want to, like, obviously, if you're involved in it, you can have more input in how it goes. If you play hard to get, it's possible we could have more leverage that way. I don't actually know if that's true, but that is a negotiating tactic. And also, like, we could want to, basically, we feel like we could get the information as it trickles out because everyone is being transparent in the process about what's happening. And then we could just basically step back and see if it works. And if it does work, then we could join with lower risk. Like, basically, like, let them take the risk first. And if it works, then, all right, well, we'll join. And if it doesn't work, it's like, well, I'm sure glad we didn't do that. So, I guess those would be the reasons. I don't know if any of them are compelling, or like, again, I said, the negotiating tactic, I don't actually even know if it would play out that way, but like, it's there. Alder Lytle.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I since personally, I'm pretty happy with the status quo. I think we get great EMS service. I think we have an amazing fire department. And with the advocacy that our mayor and city administrator have put forward, we're now in a more equitable funding situation for Fitrona EMS than I think Verona had been in previously. But if these discussions move forward, Fitchburg exits Fitrona EMS, Fitrona EMS goes away, we're sitting here as an elected body trying to figure out how to stand up either independently a joint fire and EMS department, or potentially looking at other options for other neighboring communities where maybe we would be the lead community. But so, yes, there's more control, but that comes with some significant responsibility, and I would argue risk, in terms of figuring out how to stand up an organization like that, making sure that we're not degrading the level of service and response times that are currently provided by these two first responding organizations. And so all those things would make me lie awake at night much more than, oh, well, we spent a little extra time, or not to commit to it this time, but, we were asked to contribute money to the study of our facilities and staff and capabilities. So in my mind, this keeps our options open. This doesn't require us to commit a monetary fiscal commitment at this time, but also maintains our ability to advocate for the things that are most important to the city of Verona, and have, I believe, a stronger stake, stronger negotiating position over the next several months.
Other questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Lytle.
I would make the motion to approve resolution number R26002, supporting dialogue with neighboring communities to evaluate collaborative options for EMS and fire services.
Motion by Alder Lytle. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Alder Keller. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Alder Weiss.
Mr. Aulick, do you have a position on this?
No. It's whatever you guys want me to do, and that's fine. That's why I'm here.
Okay. Thank you.
Alder Shecker Long.
Just to clarify, other than staff time, is there any monetary commitment that we're making with this resolution?
No.
Okay, thanks.
And if there was a monetary component, it would come back to the council. Other thoughts on the motion? Alder Keller.
I'm a proponent of information. I love information and I love data. So if there's no harm and no financial commitment to getting that information that will allow us to make better decisions in the future, I think this seems like a no-brainer.
Other thoughts? Alder Shecker Long.
One last question. I know we mentioned that Mr. Ulk will be involved in the conversations. Will Chief Anderson and Interim Chief McBride also be involved in these discussions, or who all will be involved?
Mr. Aulick?
In prior meetings, the chiefs, certainly the last one I attended, all the fire chiefs were there, and you too, Chief Anderson? Yep.
Well, independently, Chief Anderson, of course, Fitrona would be there regardless of what we decide to do. I mean, as far as like an elected official, like I feel like then I would be back on the hook for the meetings. So if you have any thoughts on things I should bring up or things we should avoid, let me know. Other thoughts on the motion? All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-26-002, resolution supporting dialogue with neighboring communities to evaluate collaborative options for EMS and fire services, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. With that, we'll move on to 11B, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the possible amendment to the development agreement with Sugar Creek Commons, Project Tax Increment District Number 9. Before we get into the discussion, I do want to kind of like outline what we should probably talk about in open session and what we should talk about in closed session. Closed session is the easiest thing. If we want to negotiate over the numbers, we should do that in closed session. If we want to either outright accept it, outright reject it, or talk, I guess, philosophically about TIF and things of that nature, that could be done in open session. But if it's kind of like we're not sure about the amount, we want to talk through that, that should be in closed session. Anything to add, Mr. Kleinmeyer?
No, I agree with you, Mayor. I mean, the way that I look at this is you have a lot of discretion tonight. You can accept the proposal that was made. You can reject it. You don't have to amend this agreement. But like the mayor said, if the thought process of the council is we want to talk about potentially doing an amendment, therefore we're going to get into terms and conditions that relate to value and also timing and other terms and conditions, I would recommend that we do that in closed session. But I do believe that we want to start an open session because I think we should have, you know, the threshold issue is, are you interested in doing an amendment? And, you know, at the end of the day, if you decide yes, that means we're probably going into closed session. If your thought process is no, I'm not interested in an amendment, that's an open session discussion. And quite frankly, we've talked about this issue so many times. My recommendation to you is if you are going to be taking the position that you're not interested in an amendment, I would make a motion to that effect tonight, and I can help you with that. But, you know, I think that's where we're at, and certainly willing to answer whatever questions that you might have. You know, this is something that the agreement was executed in March of 2021, so it was after 2020. It required certain public improvements to be done by July 31st of 2021. Those were not completed on time. It required us to have certain information regarding environmental remediation by July 31st of 2021. We didn't get that on time. And obviously, it required a hotel and convention center to be built, and that hasn't been done yet. And so, I mean, I do agree with the developer's request that you have the discretion, if you want, to modify the terms and conditions of the agreement to provide some funding. You also have the discretion not to do that. And so I think that's really kind of the threshold issue for your discussion.
So I guess I would open it up to thoughts. I guess I'll comment real quick on one thing that's been going through my mind. I do think, I mean, yes, they haven't met the terms of the agreement. I don't think they should get the full amount. But I do think paying for environmental remediation is worth it because I think that benefits the community, and that's like the original intent. As much as I dislike TIF, that is the original intent of TIF, is that you pay for environmental cleanup. You got an old warehouse district that you can't get any development in. It's a blight. You have TIF, it gets cleaned up, and it's beneficial to the community. So like, I can see that as just my own personal beliefs. I think that's important to pay for. But that's, I guess, my philosophical point. Alder Weiss.
I was going to say that exact thing, that I think that there was nonconformance to the agreement, and so obviously the full payout is not going to happen. But I think that in particular the environmental remediation is something that and I realize that the but-for test is the legal standard for TIF somehow, but I'm deeply suspicious of the ability to, evaluate a but-for, from almost a decade ago with, you have a bunch of counterfactuals and assumptions that it could be based on. I just don't know if that's going to be a super great way to evaluate this, but I see it as more of the auditable, the definite concrete expenses that occurred through environmental remediation, because I think the goal as the council, I don't think, is to be punitive in the sense of like poking somebody with a stick because they didn't meet the agreement, but it's like what was actually done from the perspective of for the community, because that's the underlying basis for TIF, right? And so that is just something that makes a lot of sense to me.
Other thoughts for?
I agree with what you said, that we can do it, but please do, if you tonight decide that you're not going to amend it, you are not in any way, shape, or form being punitive. You're simply holding somebody to an agreement that they signed and they didn't do what they were supposed to, which means that you don't have to then pay them. I'm not telling you, I mean, you absolutely can amend the agreement, but I just want to make it clear that it is not punitive if you choose not to.
That's fair.
Other thoughts for open session from the council? And your thought for open session could be if you want to negotiate. That's obviously an open session thought, which would result in to go into closed session. So if people are thinking, I want to negotiate about the amount, I mean, I guess now would be the time to say so. Alder Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Much of this agreement and work predates my time on the council. So frankly, I hope to hear from someone that knows a little bit more about what all is going on, strongly one direction or the other, so that I can have a better understanding of sort of how the council stands based on people who were here at the time.
Oh, man. Who was it? I mean, that was me and Alder Host. Were you here for? Yeah, 2021. Okay. Anyone?
Me.
I mean, Alder Host, do you want to say something, or I could say something, or?
And most of this has already been covered, right? We've had these discussions like over and over and over, in different forms, I guess, different questions. I guess for me, really, some of it is, it seems that the main reason that TIF was given was the promise of a hotel and a convention center. For whatever reasons that didn't happen. And then now I just feel like every time that we get this, comes back, that there's different reasons that it couldn't happen, but we're always the one that's supposed to be giving more, and the developer really, they're just asking for whatever they want, right? So now to come back to ask for TIF, and I mean, it seems that this is so far different from what was proposed even before 2021, when they were talking about this in 2016, 17, 18, whenever it came up. So I think that what we have and what we're going to get is so much different than what was signed. So I mean, if you guys want to hash out details in closed session, but I mean, for me, I don't really see how we would give them any TIF if they didn't do what they said that they were going to do, right? That's the whole point of an agreement. But if folks want to carve out a little bit of money or whatever you guys want to talk about, we can do that.
I guess I would have my add-on. Which is why I want to think the city should pay TIF for the environmental cleanup, because that is one thing they promised, and that was something that was really, really valuable to the community. And I'm an environmentalist, and I love to see the brown sites get cleaned up. It's unfortunate that the people who originally did that didn't have to pay for it, but that's just how the laws work in America. So we have to deal with it as a community. But other than that, I generally echo what Alder Hoag said.
Well, I was the other person who was here.
Oh, yes.
And I
guess
agree
that's
with
true,
what you were saying. And again, this is the third I'm saying it. You definitely have the discretion to do what you want. You've never given TIF for market rate apartments. I don't think that you will ever give TIF for market rate apartments. And all this development at this point, is commercial and market rate development. Now, but I do believe that the mayor has hit on the one issue that separates this development from other potential issues, and that is the environmental remediation.
Alder Helmke, then I guess myself.
For Mr. Kleinmeyer, I mean, is this being common in other, I mean, I was not here when this all went down. Is environmental remediation common for other TIFs that you dealt with? I mean, is that something that we would have?
Certainly, I agree with the mayor that is definitely a form of justification for why you would provide TIF financing, is to get a cleanup of a site.
Okay.
Myself and then Alder Swanson. I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but part of me, the more we talk about this, I kind of feel like we should just say, show us the invoices and receipts and verify through the DNR for the environmental remediation. And, we're willing to pay up. This would be potentially negotiation things, or just basically just say, show us the invoices and we'll verify with the DNR. And that's what we're willing to pay, and that's it. But that's kind of where my line of thinking is coming right now. And it's not a negotiation point. It's not 2.1 versus 1.6 versus whatever. It's like, hey, you did do this really valuable thing for the community and we'll pay you back for that. And that's like, and whatever the amount is, whatever the amount. Alder Swanson.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that was sort of, that gets at sort of what my thought process was, which is I wanted to know what the numbers were, and I figured that would have to happen in closed session, but if we can just say.
No, I mean, with all due respect to the mayor, I really believe you need to go to closed session if you were going to have a discussion about terms and conditions.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a decision maker, and I do not like to disagree with the mayor. But as the person who's going to have to work on this, there's more than just the money that's involved here.
Then I'm going to move that we proceed to closed session.
I will, can we hold that and have Alder Keller comment and we'll come back?
Oh, I'm just, likewise, just feeling like I lack the history lesson here to really have a good framework. It seems reasonable to me that we would discuss paying for the remediation that was done on the site. But also I will admit that it makes me a little uncomfortable to start changing TIF districts, and I always kind of wonder what kind of precedent it sets for the future for the next developer who comes back and says, well, I did most of it. So that does make me a little uncomfortable, but I'm willing to discuss.
That's fair. I guess the only thing I'd say to that is I would say modifying the agreement so the developer gets 1.1 million, $1.6 million less is, I think developers would prefer to avoid that if they can. Alder Dr. Long.
Have we gotten any sense that if we do not accept this amendment and leave things as is, have we heard from FDG that there's consequences for this, or?
I mean, are you saying could there be litigation? It's like there always could be litigation.
No, I meant like they can't finish the project, or they can't, like, are there any ramifications of what we're talking about?
Mr. Kleinmeyer?
Well, we can't stop litigation. If there was litigation, I would tell you right now, the claim would be so frivolous that I would tell the insurance company that's representing the city that you should seek cost and attorney's fees. And, you know, I guess, Beth, we can ask that question, but that's a dangerous question because every single project that we have needs some form of assistance from the city, and the developers are always going to say, if you don't provide it to us, we can't move forward. And so, yeah.
Okay. Anything else for open session or? Okay. Alder Swanson.
I move that we proceed to closed session for discussion of the development agreement, Sugar Creek Commons Project Tax, Incremental District Number 9, as the Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Sub 1 Sub E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. The Common Council may then reconvene in open session and take action on the closed session item.
Motion by Alder Swanson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Harrison. This, of course, is a roll call vote. If Mr. Alec would read the roll.
Humke.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Lytle.
Aye.
Tucker Long.
Aye.
Keller.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
Aye.
Harrison.
Aye.
3-0, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we will convene in closed session in the large conference room, and we will convene back here when we're in open session.
None of our monitors work, and theirs work. So it wasn't the laptop issue, because I thought it's still not working.
No, it's a video card. Remember a couple meetings ago? It's a piece of equipment I didn't.
Okay, everyone's in their seat. We are back in open session at 9:23. I would entertain any motions or comments on this topic. Alder Tucker Long.
I move that we do not amend the agreement for the Sugar Creek Commons Project Tax Incremental District Number 9.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Host. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of not amending the development agreement, Sugar Creek Commons Project Tax Incremental District Number 9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. With that, we'll move on to item 12, which is adjournment. A
So
motion-
moved.
Motion by Alder Host to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Humke. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we are adjourned at 9:24 PM. Thank you, everyone.